Coming up, what an excellent day for mansplaining. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 70 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Dr. Barringer saying, of course, there is one outside chance for the cure.
And it ends with him saying, although not for the reasons they think.
No, that couldn't possibly be it. Right? I'm a big doctor man with my coat, and I know things, and I have an even bigger desk than Dr. Klein's. You could fit like 10 little cars on there.
Look at that desk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no.
Before we go on, yes, we understand the irony of a episode called Mansplaining, and it's two men explaining. But that's what you all signed up for.
I mean... But no, we decided to call it mansplaining, just to mansplain it to you, because Dr. Barringer hasn't shut up since the last minute, so he's still going on, folks. This was a big block of text on Peter Masterson. That's his name.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So this whole thing, this was a big block of text on the script for Mr. Peter Masterson here,
right?
And it's been expertly intercut with like all these shots of Reagan and Chris and all that stuff. But yeah, actually, before we get into this minute, there's something I wanted to ask you, Keenan. So in our last minute, we have introduced the very real danger of the possibility of Reagan being put away somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
How does that jive with Howdy's plan, if at all? Like, I have my opinions, but I wanted to check in with you.
With his plan, I guess, because you're, I haven't really thought about, I see him as sort of a chaos agent, and you see him as having more of a plan, so I guess I haven't really thought about it, but I think he's just in there to muck things up.
Just to muck things up, okay.
Just to be that rain cloud that follows Eeyore around, or Winnie the Pooh around, I can't remember. But
I'm trying, like hypothetically, like if this played out and she did get, put away into a spa.
Yeah, Norman Bates says when Marion Crane in Psycho is saying you could put her somewhere, he says you always call a place like that somewhere. You never say the name of it.
She goes off to live on a farm. She's got lots of room to run and play around. And,
She'll get her own spin-off movies. There's Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah. But no, like then what's Captain Howdy going to do? Is he just going to like sit there and jabber away? So personally, I think if push came to shove and it was really looking like they were going to put Reagan away, Captain Howdy would do something. He would like pull some strings with the higher ups, I guess like the lower downs, or he would just like, I don't know, hang back and let Reagan be normal. Like something so that the docs would like change their mind and not put her away. Like putting Reagan away would certainly hurt Mom, which is what he wants to do. But I also think he's trying to get to Karis. He's trying to get to Marin. He's trying to get them all together, in my opinion. I don't even know if folks would agree with me on that, that Karis and Marin showing up are part of his plan, but I personally think it is. And if you put Reagan away before exorcism is even introduced as an idea, I feel like that's counter to what Captain Howdy wants. He wants that showdown with Marin. Like both the book and the movie tell us that those two have met and fought before. And there's even more in the book. Like I can't wait to get to it, because like it tells us just how Howdy feels about Marin and how much he wants to see Marin fall from grace. So no, I don't think in the grand scheme of things, I don't think Reagan being put away was ever going to happen, right? That said, Howdy relishes in hanging that over Chris's head. So he's going to let that like play out as much as he can, I think.
So I don't want to rain on parades or anything. I'm just asking. I don't want to put any cold water about things. But but are we assuming that Captain Howdy, he wants, like, are we assuming that it's part of his plan to get Marin in that room with Karis and Reagan just because that's what happens? And then we're sort of going backwards and saying that must be his plan because he's a great villain.
This kind of goes in line with my thesis statement for this whole thing, right? Like you talk about like everybody in this film or in this book is possessed by something. They've all got those skeletons in the closet, right? They're all guilty about something. And I think, and this is my opinion, but it's been sort of colored by other things that I've read. And it's also been colored by what Father Marin says on those steps, right? That scene that, that was taken out, right? That is put back in here. That Reagan isn't actually the target.
Right.
Captain Howdy has nothing personally against Reagan, but he sees that Reagan is this object of love that is kind of like the center of all of these other people that he can get to. And he can get to Chris, he can get to Marin, he can get to Karis by using Reagan. But yeah, I want to talk more about his plan and kind of the larger details of it. But I want to save that for when we're in the room with him.
All right.
But I think it has a lot to do with what Father Marin says on those steps. But yeah, I think all that to say, I don't actually think Reagan being put away was ever going to happen if Captain Howdy had anything to say about it.
All right.
But yeah, we will explore this further once we get there, folks, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, so let's get back to this minute. We actually have some silent moments just before Dr. Barringer says his first line. He's still walking to the desk and he's looking at Chris because, again, folks, he is about to say something batshit crazy. Talk about, putting people away. So
he's going to say it in front of witnesses.
Yes.
With the secretary in the corner writing it all down.
Oh my God. So he's taking his time. And while he's taking his time, the camera is taking us on a journey, folks, which ends as we pass behind Chris's head, very much like the camera likes to pass in front of environmental objects, right? Remember, folks, this camera has done this a bunch of times now. It moves behind stuff in the attic. It ducks behind the banister on the stairs. It's constantly emerging or hiding, right? Pillars move in and swallow our characters up, right? The pillars from Iraq or the subway station, right? And as the camera makes this weird pass, this weird transition, the scene also transitions. We're crossing some thresholds, and we're now in a new space, a new feeling, new stakes, new POV. Something has changed. And what's changed here for me, this is when the movie becomes The Exorcist. I don't mean literally. I know it's The Exorcist the whole time. The whole time. But this is the moment we, the audience, have been waiting for, right? This is what we bought our tickets for, waited in line for. This is the movie that we have come to see, right? When the docs suggest the next thing, we're like, here we go. It's almost... Now, Keenan, tell me what you think of this. I may cut this out if this makes me sound too stupid, but it almost feels like a false start to Act 2.
No, I don't think that's stupid at all. So I said this way back before that it has an incredibly long Act 1. And I'm sure I would love to hear counter arguments to that about Act 1. I don't know, starting around minute 30 or 40, but I don't think it's really there because Act 1 is setting up the complications leading to the main character or main characters making this big chain, this decision, this point of no return idea, right? And it usually we say it has to happen from the main character making a decision. If it's just the villain or the antagonist doing it all, then it's not them making a decision, right? So just possessing Reagan isn't enough. What we're looking for in Act 2 is the main characters making a decision. I will do this, or I will try to do this or that.
Right.
So if the movie's about an exorcism and it's called The Exorcist, right? We have not had Chris and Damien meet and say, this is what we're going to try to do. This movie is about us trying to exorcise the demon out of my daughter.
Right.
And so if we're going by that definition, which is crazy because that's still another 10 minutes away, then this might be, if you think about a more conventional 30-minute Act 1 or 25 to 35-minute Act 1, there is a period oftentimes that is a false start to it. The call to adventure that is then rejected.
Right.
So this is sort of potentially that, right? How about an exorcist? And she's like, you are a fucking bald, white man. You're talking crazy, right? And then she has to go home and think about it and be like, I think that bald guy was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, folks, neither of us cannot talk about how bald these doctors are.
Oh no, that's in Chris's. That's Chris's words.
Oh yeah, of course, that's Chris. That's not. Yeah.
We love bald people.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
it's 2023. We have room for all types of hairstyles.
Mm-hmm,
but anyways, it's just so strange that they're all bald. All these doctors, everybody but Dr. Tanny.
That's what I'm saying. It's a rite of passage. It's like you get you. It's like, how are you going to contain all those brains with all that hair?
Right, well, Dr. Tanny isn't bald. Well, he wasn't a very good doctor.
Dr. Tanny's got to keep that full head of hair for his musical debut. Dr. Tanny and his amazing Technicolor glasses. He needs those beautiful blue eyes and that full head of hair.
But yeah, I think that would not be atypical, that we would have sort of a false start to Act 2.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes in a real Act 2, we'll have a false ending where the person either gives up, or it looks like the bad guy has won, or it looks like the hero has won, but not in a satisfying way. Or
right.
Yeah. So we like these fake out moments.
Yeah.
I'm sure if someone's watching this for the first time, they're like, finally, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. This is what I've been waiting for.
Yeah. It almost seems like in a lesser movie, like they would say, it's like, you need to call The Exorcist, just like say the title of the movie, right?
That's what I'm waiting for.
This truly was the perfect storm.
Oh, that's exactly the example I was going to say. Like that. So that is a bad moment in a pretty good movie, The Perfect Storm. You've seen that? Oh, like it's an eye-rolling idea, but it's so bad and so catching that like we use that term all the time for other things. Right? This is, this is financial troubles, like in the economy. This is a perfect storm of economic trouble. It's a perfect storm of political turmoil or whatever. Because it's so on the nose and shockingly bad when Christopher McDonald says that. It's the perfect storm.
Yeah. Hello, police. My son Kevin is home alone.
Do they say that? I wonder.
They say it like several times. And as a little kid, I was just like, every time they said it, I like just some little chemical like just like fired off in my brain. I was like, ah!
I understand art now. Art is when they say the title. Because like oftentimes in books, right, it's the prologue, right? It's like Of Mice and Men is the prologue of Mice and Men, right? The saddest words of Mice and Men is what could have been, right? So they tell us right at the top. But sometimes, like the I don't know how it works in the book, but the Silence of the Lambs, I think, is like the best version of that, because you already think it's like a scary title, so you're not like going in like, what the hell is the Silence of the Lambs? You're not thinking about that at all,
right?
And then when he describes that to you, are you trying to silence the lambs, Clarice? You're like, no.
It's a completely different thing than what I was thinking.
Yeah. But the totally on the nose ones, like, did you see Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World?
No.
Really trashy movie about J. Paul Getty's grandson being kidnapped, and so he's the richest man in the world, and then his grandson gets kidnapped in Italy, and then what they don't count on is that the grandfather is a terrible bastard, and he's not going to give the money, and so then his daughter-in-law, the mother of the grandson, is like, you have to give him the money. It's Michelle Williams. Like, you have to give him the money, and like they say several times something along the lines of all the money in the world, or he's like, I wouldn't do that for all the money in the world. And I'm in the theater like, yeah. and then he says like we have all the time in the world. Like, yes. I don't want any scene where that phrase isn't mentioned in this movie.
So they don't do it once. They do it several times.
They do it several times. If they had asked me, I would have wanted them to do it more.
Wow.
I love it so much. Yeah, it's a really trashy kind of pulpy movie with all this like really wonderful, like Ridley Scott production value. But yeah, if anything, it needs to be a little trashier.
Luke, join me, and we can rule the galaxy in these wars in the stars.
But that's the joke from Bill
Simba,
Murray's.
You're going to be the king, and you're a lion. You're going to be the king lion.
But that's the joke in Bill Murray's Star Wars song, right, in SNL?
Oh,
where he sings the words to Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like
I gotta see that now.
Wars, nothing but Star Wars. These crazy Star Wars.
Yeah, sir, what'll it be? It's like, 2 beers, please. Oh, who are you? Oh, I'm the man who walked up a hill and came down a mountain. You know.
That's terrible. That's probably the most famous title of a movie that nobody ever saw.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't seen it either. Right. I only remember it because that title is so fucking long. What do you want for dinner, honey? Oh, how about some fried green tomatoes?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
What are you babbling on about, Ripley? Are you saying that this ship has been infested with other beings? of some other planet?
Extraterrestrials.
ETs.
ETs.
But then you watch E.T. and it's like he's some sort of alien.
A friend of mine pointed out that in the latest Star Wars trilogy that the titles are interchangeable. So like The Force Awakens could apply to number 7, number 8, or number 9.
Oh, yeah.
The Last Jedi could apply to number 7, number 8, or number 9.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker could apply to any one of them.
You know, it's not called the Empire anymore, but it is kind of striking back. I'm just saying.
Metaphorically,
right? And Rey is kind of like a New Hope. You know,
I bet they're all interchangeable.
Not that we love Star Wars, folks, or at least I do. The Star Wars Minute was the first of these movie by minutes podcasts, and they kind of they were the originators of this trend. So so listen to them; they're very good.
All right. So what crazy ass thing is this? We
have
this man going to say. This man.
Yeah, this man. He's mansplaining. So we were. Okay, we were talking about like a false act 2, right? Because he's about to say something that sounds absolutely nuts, right?
Oh yeah.
But I'm also noticing just how long it's taking our docs to say the thing in this. Well, I mean, like it's taken us very long to say this thing, right? But as I'm watching and I'm taking notes, I'm like, okay, now he's gonna say it. Okay, now he's gonna say it. Any second, right? And he just keeps stalling and blustering, right? So he says there is an outside chance for a cure, but he thinks of it as a shock treatment, right? And he says it again. He's like, as I said, it's a very outside chance, and like as if Chris is going to be like imagine like him stalling, and then Chris is like, well, if it's that outside, then never mind, doctor. I don't want to hear about it, right? And she closes her little folder and she just walks away, right?
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, right. I don't want to go that far.
Right. Oh, can anybody validate my parking on the way?
Yeah. Right. Of course she doesn't, right? She says, would you just name it for God's sakes? Interesting choice of words, right? Like all of these Christ and God, coming from Chris, but also like to the point of like what this guy's going to say. But also Keenan, she says that line so gently and so patiently and so kindly. Like that's the thing that threw me off. I was like, Chris, how are you able to speak so like kindly and gently to this like stuttering man-child, right? Like it's such a tactical change from before when she was talking to Klein, when she was talking to Tanny back in the house. Like even just from the last minute to this one, it's a change, right? Like in the last minute where she said, I don't care what you call it, I'm not putting her away, as if she were like disciplining a group of kids. Like, I don't care what you call it, like Superman, Iron Man, Flying Nun, you're not jumping off the roof, right? Like, but I think that's it. Like, I think we're seeing Chris realize, okay, these children in lab coats aren't listening to my first mom voice. I got to pull out the other mom voice. And so she's like, hey, it's okay. You can tell me, I won't be mad. Like, again, she's a mom. She probably had to use both of those tones with Reagan, though I think Reagan is a little bit more mature than these tones.
Right, just to play high status and low status.
Right. Now, actually, in the book, I'm pretty sure Blatty has her saying it the opposite way. She's just like, well, you just name it for God's sakes, right? But we know that Blatty likes the pathos, the emotion.
Right.
But yeah, I wanted to check with you, like what directions, if any, does it have in the screenplay? Like, are there like parentheticals? Like
performance notes for this?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow. Okay.
There's some underlined words. So, Chris, I don't care what you call it. Well, and let me try to say it without any emphasis, right? Like just say, Chris, I don't care what you call it. That's what we have there. And then
that even had some emphasis.
I know. I guess how could you,
I don't care what you call it. Right. I don't care what you call it.
Right, but what is underlined though?
Well, yeah. Okay,
yeah. Chris, will you name it? For God's sakes, what is it? So name underlined and is underlined, and that's about it. But so does Dr. Barringer, who again in the script is called clinic director, because it'd be insane that he works at a clinic named after him, or named after his father. Maybe would make more sense.
Dr. Barringer is my father.
And foundation. But he has some underlined words. There is one outside chance of a cure. I think of it as shock treatment, but I say it's a very outside chance.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there's no parenthetical hysterical or doubling down or anything like that.
Which, if any, would you see as more effective and more kind of like, I don't know, freeing for the actor to do their thing? Because what I'm trying to say here is I believe that this gentle tone is a choice by Ellen Burstyn, and it really works and it's really good. And I wanted to see if she was going against the script or if the script didn't specify how to say it.
Yes, it does not specify how to say it. And then again, if you're new to filmmaking or haven't quite seen behind the scenes of how it works, actors usually have 2 or 3 or sometimes many takes, which is different performance versions. So depending on the type of actor, some actors try to perfect one version, and then some actors swing wild and try to do several different iterations. So there might have been I'm not sure how Ellen Burstyn works, so there might have been one where she is like about to throw over the table with that line, and then and another one where she's going under.
Interesting. Yeah, and I mean, whatever it is, Friedkin decided that this was the take.
Right. Yeah, so the actor gives many takes, and then the director, with the help of the editors, decides which take is the one that's going to work for the movie.
Right. Huh. Now, again, even now, we're sort of teased here before our doc can say what it is. Another doc pipes up with, do you have any religious beliefs? Right? And Chris says no. Then another doc, a female doc, she says, what about your daughter? Which I always thought was a weird question. Like, lady, if I'm not religious, what makes you think my 12-year-old daughter is? Although I guess that could be possible. Like Howard was religious and that's like a sticking point or something. Or also, now that I'm doing this movie with you, Keenan, and you brought up how this is very much about a mother losing touch with her child as she grows up.
Right.
I can see this question landing like that. Like, how much do you actually know about your little girl? Right. Do you know if she's religious? Are you sure? Right. I can see that also giving Chris some unease.
Yeah, because it could have been, the mother, I don't know, like in the novel, right? Like Chris might have lost her faith, or at least it cemented that she didn't have faith to begin with because of the loss of her first child, right? Which, I mean, you've heard that in this time period. I think less and less nowadays of people saying, I'm not religious, but I'm going to raise my little girl in the church just because, right? And let them make the decision later. I think nowadays that's less common.
Yeah. I don't think the book specifies. I think it mentions those two things, right? The death of her son and her being an atheist as separate. I don't think it's
right.
It could be causation or correlation. Just to bring those words back. But I don't think Blatty says.
Right. So first of all, when these other doctors pipe in, if I was Chris and I'd be so pissed, do you have any religious beliefs? And I'd be like, who the fuck are you? Like, what like it's a whole team again. Like, and then the other way, what about you? Well, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
I was talking to Dr. Barringer.
Right. The guy whose name is on the side of the building.
Yeah.
Where's your building?
Right.
Dr. Smith.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm Dr. Mayo. Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor.
Right. Oh,
I'm Dr. Johns Hopkins.
Yes, I'm Dr. Van to the spa, actually.
But no, I think it's interesting they're asking about Reagan's religiosity because there is a history of young girls and their religious feelings, which is, almost impossible for us to do today. But like modern skeptics say, like, Joan of Arc and the little girls who saw the Madonna at certain churches in Mexico, right? Like that they were not having religious experiences; they were having medical hallucinations.
Yes. I mean, and I guess the one that sprung to my mind first was, the Salem witch trials. Those little girls in the Crucible, right? At first, kind of like starting out as a prank, or just because they were bored and life is horrible and there's nothing to do. Kind of like doing it to get attention, but then like actually seeing and actually like feeling what they claim to be going through.
Yeah, I had heard one modern historian looking at it anthropologically and wondering if there was an ergot fungi poisoning.
I've heard that as well. I think that has been debunked, but again, I'm being told that has been debunked by a podcast. So,
yeah. Don't listen to podcasts.
Folks. No, folks, don't.
No, but
turn this off right now.
But that's an interesting hypothesis. But it speaks to skeptics' view of these historical what believers call miracles, right? Joan of Arc becomes a saint because she sees the angels coming down to her and giving her advice to fight against the heretics, right? But a skeptic is like, maybe there were miracles 2,000 years ago, but not 400 years ago. What are we talking? Where there's a line somewhere where the age of miracles is over, and then everything after that has to be medically explained.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting. Like for some reason, with young girls specifically, right? Like the young girl version of what we would call hysterical is associated with a lot of religiosity historically.
Interesting that, like there have been more, like just comparatively, relatively, there have been more documented cases of it being young girls.
Yes.
Huh.
So I don't have an answer for that, but I think that might be what they're peek into. Like, because I imagine that they're asking about their religiosity because they're trying to ask about whether Reagan has had visions, psychological issues, hallucinations in the past.
Yeah. And this could this could feed into, like, because if you do have a religious background, then that can feed into your psychosis. As we're gonna find out in a couple minutes ahead, when Chris gets very, very angry about a religious item in the house.
Right.
But yeah, like, so Chris says no to both, right? She isn't religious and her daughter is not religious, right? And then she asks why. And that's when Dr. Barringer asks her if she's ever heard of exorcism. And I just want to congratulate Friedkin on his willpower not to add a musical sting or a zoom or something like that, because while I can't say I would, I think I would be tempted.
I would. Like, I want to make sure everybody figures this out. I don't want to lose anybody behind.
This is it. This is the movie you came to see. Or just have Chris repeat it, like, exorcism? What's that?
What's that?
Even maybe just like a subtle little, I don't know, like a little sound, a little pulse, like a little tremor. Like, those sounds that don't sound like anything, just like a deep vibration or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really common in modern horror scores, right? Just
yeah. Or just like a boom, right? Yeah. But no, Friedkin doesn't use that because he's better than both of us. At least directorially,
Absolutely.
like maybe not as a person.
I wouldn't want to work with him.
No.
But he makes better movies than me.
Yeah. But yeah, he doesn't even linger on this guy's face. Right. As soon as he says the word exorcism, we get just enough time to see him sort of squirm at what he just said. Like, he finally got it out and he's like, ugh, right? And then we cut to Chris, and I swear to God, Keenan, the timing of this cut is so funny. Like, we joked before about making this movie a romantic comedy. You could lift this part directly from the film and plop it down in that trailer. Like this cut. And it's so quirky and silly. I don't know. Like, the beats are perfect, right? It's like, have you ever heard of exorcism? Cut, head turn, back to Barringer mumbling as if he said something wrong, right? Also, Keenan, I don't know if the secretary behind Chris was given any direction about this. She's out of focus, like we're not supposed to notice her. But like, go back and look. When Chris turns her head to look at Barringer, the secretary behind her does the exact same thing.
She does.
They're the only two people in the frame. And it's like, have you ever heard of exorcism? Cut. Both of them turn their heads to him.
Record scratch, right?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that, like, so Barringer is the guy. His name or his daddy's name is on the side of the clinic,
right?
But they're like,
or his mom's name. I don't know.
Like his mother.
No, wait, 1970s. Never mind.
A doctor?
Yeah. 1970s? No way.
I'm sorry, everybody. My name can't be on the side of this clinic.
I can't prescribe exorcism to this little boy because he's my son.
Yeah, but like somehow he's in charge of it. So whether his name is actually Dr. Barringer or not, right? It's not listed here. The script doesn't have that, etc. But he's the leader of this. But everyone seems to be setting him up to like, we're going to do some work. We're going to ask whether the girl knows about religious feelings so we can work on this placebo thing, right? With the exorcism, right? But you're going to have to be the one to drop that because I'm not going to get caught saying exorcism anywhere. It's like, again, if you need to subpoena the Exorcist Minute for any reason, I don't have any notes. Lester has all the notes. I don't write anything down. It's partially laziness and partially to be sure that I have what's the word? Plausible deniability.
Well, I think no. I think Keenan, you work best, and we discuss the notes before we
Sure.
And you take a look at.
Sure. Like, I really I study them. I work real hard.
I'm trying to save you, Keenan. But no. Like I think Keenan, you operate the best this way. I need my.
Oh no, it's great. No, it's so totally helpful for me, which is I don't have the notes.
Yeah.
So like these doctors here are like, they're not gonna catch me writing down anywhere. Tell the girl to get an exorcism on my letterhead with my name on it. Absolutely not. This guy Barringer, he's going down.
He's on his way out. It's like, We're going to call this the the Steininger Clinic after this.
But what's the Barringer Clinic going to do? Fire Dr. Barringer?
Yeah.
And Foundation?
And Foundation, right? You can't do that. Dr. Barringer, would you step into my office? And he's just talking on the intercom. He's like, sure thing, right? He just crosses. He walks over to the other side of the desk and sits down, right? It's like, what the hell were you thinking prescribing exorcism to this? And then he runs up and he gets to the other side of the desk. He's like, well, I don't know. And he acts afraid. He's like, just pulls his collar like he's sweating, Well, don't let it happen again. I can't fire you because you're me. But yeah, folks, I think we are lulled into a fake sense of, I don't even know what you would call it, like plausibility when he suggests it, because it's called The Exorcist, right? And we know that an exorcism is happening, and so when he suggests exorcism, it doesn't hit us, I think, the way it's supposed to. Well, or that's arguable, right? Like it hits us like we're like, oh, finally. But also, like, just imagine that, like, today you go to a doctor and they can't figure out what's wrong with you, and they say, like, have you ever considered going to a priest? Like, you would slap that doctor.
Yeah.
That, like, it's as unbelievable today as it was back then.
Even
right?
I like Catholic hospitals. I think they're really great. If I'm able to choose, I'll go to the Catholic hospital in town.
Sure. Yeah.
If they said that to me,
right?
Like let's bring the priest in here. I'd be like, oh no.
It's like even at a Catholic hospital, you would think like they wouldn't even touch that.
And they don't, right? They would not, absolutely.
Yeah. So we cut back to the doc, and he explains.
He's still explaining.
He's still explaining. Yeah. Oh my God!
Men be splaining.
Men. Oh my God!
You can't tell me men ain't be splaining.
And this is another level of meta, folks, because you're listening to us. I think, as Keenan already pointed out. So, no, Keenan pointed out that we're mansplaining, and I'm mansplaining the fact that we're mansplaining this Dr. Mansplaining.
I already pointed it out. Right?
Okay.
Exactly.
And I also had to point out how meta this is. God.
Meta means like when we're talking about like that the text is a text. So we're sort of addressing it as a text and from the outside and the inside at the same time.
Right. Yeah. This is before what's his name got his hands all over it. Social network guy.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So he says it's a stylized, the doctor, not Eisenberg. But yeah, so our doc says that it's a stylized ritual in which the rabbi or priest try to drive out the so-called invading spirit. He's shifting a lot in his seat as he says all this, right? But as he settles, like, am I crazy, or is he getting more and more interested by what he's saying? Like, it's almost like now that he's talking about it, now that he's like shifted his seat, he's also shifted from sympathy to like clinical curiosity, right? like he forgot why he was talking about it, and he just gets caught up in it. He like, oh yeah, this is primitive cultures, and they actually think,
I think that's it. Just the more he talks, the calmer he is. When someone else gets the opportunity to speak or ask questions, he's like, I don't know where I put my hands.
my God.
He's a podcaster without a podcast.
Oh my gosh. Give this man a mic.
I heard one of my friends once describe his partner that she was an artist without an art. Like she was frustrated because like she has all the artistic sensibilities and that's like how she should be living her life, but she didn't make art, right? She didn't have the outlet for it, right? So yeah, that's Dr. Barringer. He's the podcaster without a podcast. If a white man makes a podcast in the forest, but there's no microphone to hear it.
Does he get 5 stars? Oh my God, yeah. Oh, he'd be bothering the squirrels and the bears. And he's like, hit that subscribe button. And yeah. Welcome to the Forest Minute, where I talk about sunrise and sunset. And,
Now, I do want to point out for our listeners that I am not white. I'm Hawaiian, Chinese, Filipino, etc. And I'm a gay man and all of that. But all that goes away.
I am all the other things. I am the whitest. I think we joked about this in a previous minute. I mean, even like a white person, I just interrupted you. So, but no,
you had 3 incredibly white names.
Yeah,
Lester, Ryan,
no,
Clark.
4.
Oh, what's the 4th?
Michael. Because I needed a saint name because I'm so Catholic.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, before I was interrupted, that I'm Asian and Native Hawaiian and I'm gay and all that, but all that goes away when I'm in front of a microphone. Like that just takes over and I just become a basic white dude with my podcast. Talk about whatever I want to talk about.
Oh my God!
You all have to listen. That's how it goes.
Yep. That's how it is.
Right. Sarah Koenig cares about whether you are having a good time, but not Dr. Barringer on the
no.
Right on the Barringer podcast and foundation.
He doesn't have guests. He just
he doesn't have guests or topics.
No. It's just whatever enters his brain. He sets up his little podcasting portable studio like in front of a babbling brook, or like near the edge of the forest, and he just talks about the bears.
To the bears. He talks about the bears. About the bears to the bears. That's a thing about you bears, he says.
Yes. Oh, jeez.
I don't know if you bears can understand it from the outside, from the inside.
Oh, gosh.
Luckily, you have me.
This is the most condescending podcaster I've explaining bears to bears.
All right, let's get back to some semblance of something.
Yeah. 3 stars. I didn't like his mansplaining, but he tasted good. That's the last episode.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Of season 1, he'll be back.
Yeah.
By the way.
Recording from inside the bear's stomach. The acoustics in here. I mean, oh, God. Okay. All right. But yeah, so our Dr. Barringer continues, right? He also has to assert that it's all nonsense. You know, like he's wearing a lab coat, he says, right? Like, and if you pause, like his smile is the definition of smug, right? Like he says, it's been pretty much discarded these days, except by the Catholics who keep it in the closet as a sort of embarrassment, right? Like, oh my God, he is so trying to backpedal as he's talking,
right?
Which, like in the 1970s, that was probably true, right? The Catholics keeping it in the closet.
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
But make note of that, folks. Like, make note of the fact that before this movie, this book, in fact, in this movie and in this time, exorcism was like, I guess you could say, like, it was on its way out. Right? In fact, it was so obscure and unheard of that this doctor has to explain it to Chris like he's doing, right? Like, and I want y'all to sit with that for just a second. Like, we are in a darkened theater in the early 1970s. We're likely religious, but we probably don't know as much about this thing called exorcism as we do today. And like now, this movie is saying, hey, you know that church that you go to every Sunday, you actually don't. You think you do. But did you know that they sometimes do this thing called exorcism? Because people sometimes get possessed. Possessed? What's that? Oh, it's when a demon enters your body. What? Like if you're already religious and you take everything the church says as gospel.
I don't think you're allowed to say that, Lester.
and then you find out that they also do this thing. Like, you're already bought in, right? Like, it must be real, right? Everything about the church is real. So even though you may never have heard of it before, like I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Like, imagine today, this is we're still in the midst of COVID, right? You're mindful of your health. And you're also a good patient. And you go to the doctor regularly. And then you see a movie like, oh, did you know about this disease where your eyeballs shrivel up into raisins, right? And it's very, very common. You have a 50-50 chance of it every time you blink, right? Like, and there's all these historical cases, and it's really scary. And there's this disease out there, and it's always been out there, but nobody talks about it. And then, so you go to the doctor and you check with the doctor, and they confirm, yes, that disease exists. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I wish I knew like how aware people were of demonic possession and exorcism before this movie, because I think part of the success of this movie, of this book, is the fact that it brought an obscure idea back into the public consciousness.
Right. Well, how do you even like poll people? Why would you have polled people ahead of time? Right. Like, what do you think? What do you think about exorcism? People didn't think about it.
Yeah. And like, we as a modern audience will never be able to taste that or enjoy that or get a sense of it, right? Like this is introducing a new thing. And even to the point of like, it's introducing it very late in the movie comparatively, right? Like right now. And that's why like any movie about demonic possession after this suffers, because this one was so successful.
Well, suffers, and there's a movie that's coming out now in 2023 when we're recording this. I don't know how good it is. I'm not going to see it, but several people have sent me links, trailers, etc. Do you know about it? The Pope's Exorcist.
Oh, the Pope's. I was just going to say. Right. I was actually going to mention.
But people assume that they're related. So my father was like, "Oh, it's a new Exorcist," and it's not. It's a ripoff. I don't know if it's a good movie or not, but like it's using the idea of the Exorcist to be marketable, not in a bad way necessarily, but they're taking advantage of the fact that now what an exorcism is and what exorcist is. So this is the Pope's version or something. I don't know.
This is the Pope's Exorcist. You've heard of the Exorcist, well, and you've heard of the Pope.
Yeah, be sure you've heard of those two things before you come in. Yeah.
This is Dr. Barringer's The Pope's Exorcist. Yeah. So, yeah, like this doc says, the Catholics probably didn't even think about this thing before this movie, right? Even if you were Catholic, right? They were probably, like the Catholic officials, right? The priests and everything were probably embarrassed by it, the church, I mean. So even if you went to church, imagine your friends one day say, hey, come with us. We're all going to go see The Exorcist. What's that? Oh, it's a story about a girl who's possessed. Possessed what? What does she possess? No. She's possessed, and the priests have to do an exorcism. Oh, what is that? Oh, it's a real thing. You've never heard about it? Like, no, my priest has never talked about that. Because when would you do that? Other than the story, right, of Legion and the pigs, right? That's the only time.
Yeah, that's an exorcism, I suppose. But that's God doing it.
Exactly.
So I don't know if that counts as an exorcism.
So it's like he's not gonna close his book, and he's like, and then the pigs all went into the river and they drowned, and Jesus was like, ha ha ha, LOL. No, no, he doesn't say that. But then so the priest isn't gonna close his book and be like, we still do that.
Right. Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody. Right. Like, but if you feel like, you got like some demons in you, just, come see us after,
But it's also not going to be like the doctor says, where the priest closes that chapter. Right. And he's like, well, so that's an exorcism and we still do that. Cringe. So cringe. Embarrassing.
Yeah. They're just not going to mention it. They're going to you could read that story. The priest could read that story in church, and probably the the parishioners, the congregation is going to lump that in with all of the other things that Jesus did, right? It's like, oh yeah, like walking on water, like, helping the blind man see, like, getting that demon out of that guy and putting it into the pigs.
Right.
Like, they're not going to be like, oh, I wonder if the priests have like walking on water practice, or I wonder if the priests cure blindness. No, like that's specifically a Jesus thing.
Right.
So I can see, like, yeah, I wonder, I want to know from like my fellow Catholics, because I didn't know about this until this movie. Like growing up as a Catholic, did you know that this was a thing? Like, and I'm speaking specifically before seeing this movie, before this book, like did Catholics growing up know that this was a thing?
Not from what I have seen. I'm sure that there are some really astute Catholics out there who knew everything. So I'm sure there were some people, but from my understanding, and anyone can correct us, obviously, but that this was new and novel. It was so retro, and that's what I was thinking, right? Like. Yeah, this movie brings exorcism, and the book bring exorcism back into the public consciousness, and that reminds me of like inquisitors, or like the Spanish Inquisition, and how like that didn't ever come back. So like if Blatty hadn't come along, we would be thinking about exorcism like we would think about Inquisition, right? Like something that was in the past. That like, what a weird thing that used to happen.
Yeah, no wonder people were falling and throwing up, and also no wonder there was like a spike in church attendance after this movie. Right?
Right. In a way that, Dostoevsky's version of the Grand Inquisitor didn't get people going back to the Catholic Church. Like, I want to get me some of that. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. This is about as close as we got to Inquisition revival.
Yeah. Nobody expects it because nobody thinks about it anymore. No. But yeah,
this is a tangent, but recently in my class I showed Monty Python, The Holy Grail. Speaking of the Spanish Inquisition and their skit, right? And I was like, I don't know if the students like know Monty Python. I'm not sure, right? So before we showed the movie, I asked like who has seen it. About half of the people had never seen any Monty Python before. So like, great, that's wonderful that I'm doing this. And the other half who had seen it were like, yes, and we've seen this movie like several like many times. So like that was really interesting. That like the people who had seen it were so familiar with the Holy Grail and so familiar with Monty Python. Like, so it's interesting to see that that's still happening. Like, they're still like, and I know you're one of these people, right? Like Monty Python diehard person. So
yes, absolutely, yeah. It boggles my mind, and this is just me getting old. I just have to accept this. But when I say something like, when I mention, like Monty Python, and my kids look up, it was like, who? What? And I'm like, oh God.
Well, yeah, I think that they're still out there. I think there still are diehard Monty Python fans out there, though. That's why I was reporting back to you. They exist, I think.
Okay, like fresh new ones, or just like people as old as us?
Oh no, I mean these are half of my students. Like, so maybe your students are a little too young because yours are K through 12, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So these are college students.
Okay, all right. But yeah, so that like everything that we were talking about, like exorcism and the impact of this movie, right? That just goes to show that this movie can't be made anymore, right? I'm saying this as the requel is coming out. Do you hear that, requel? This movie can't be made anymore,
right? But it's gonna be in a different world, right? Because it created the world that,
right. There's never going to be a question of like what's going on with like that. I think part of that is the scariness of like what is going on with Reagan. Right. Until we hear about it and we're like, oh, exorcism, demon, blah, but like in the same way that Dracula has ruined vampires for us, right? Like, hey, have you heard about this obscure monster called a vampire? Like, kinda, but not really. It was like, well, here's Dracula, and you're like, oh shit, is that like what a vampire is? I thought it was an obscure legend from an obscure part of the world, right? Like same thing here. Exorcism was part of the old times. Nobody thought about it. The church wasn't doing it anymore. Like this doc says, like they were hiding it in the closet as an embarrassment. So the church going public probably wouldn't even know about it. And then like along comes this movie and says there's more to your own religion than you thought, right? Like this is a thing. This can happen.
Right.
That's wild to me. But yeah, so let's get back to this minute. The doc is still talking. Surprise, surprise. and he says, I mean, like we're still talking. So, and he says that it has worked. But then he has to add that little bit at the end, realizing, although not for the reasons they think, it's purely, and that's where our minute cuts off, right? It's purely, well,
geez, I mean, our last minute ended with the cliffhanger of what the doctor was going to say. And then again, Dr. Barringer's ending our...
He's still not done.
Oh, with another one. Oh, yeah.
Right. Not for the reasons they think. It's purely yeah. That's that. But yeah. So that's all the notes I got here. I have so much stuff about Dr. Barringer's like scientific explanation of exorcism in the next minute, but we can't say it here because he hasn't said it yet.
Looking forward to it. Somehow he hasn't gotten to the point.
Somehow. Yeah. That's how, you have to write those essays in doctor school, right? And that's how you fill, 8 to 10 pages. But yeah, so that is all of my notes for this minute. Keenan, is there anything we missed in here?
No, I think we got it.
So Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Monty Python compels you.
This podcast is no more.
Nobody expects the Exorcist Minute.